Welcome. You're tuned into Life is a Sacred Journey. Every week, we bring a new perspective to aging and caregiving. Here is your host, Michelle Pope.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the virtual neighborhood of Life is a Sacred Journey. My name is Michelle Pope, and I want to welcome you to another time gathering here at Life is a Sacred Journey. And I'm going to move this files here because I want you to see this pillow. It says shine on, shine on. So I hope you're all shining on this morning because over the last couple of hours or 48 hours, I've realized how important it is that we show up in the world the way we want the world to be. If you want happiness and joy and all of those things in your life, you have to show up that way. So welcome to Life is a Sacred Journey, and I hope that you are feeling some joy this morning. Before I bring our guest on, I wanted to tell you a little bit about him and tell you why he's here. As you well know, I think it was 9 years ago now, almost a decade ago, I was having a major sciatic issues where I just couldn't figure out what was going on. And I went to acupuncture and I did all kinds of things. And I began to realize that medications are great and surgeries are great if they become necessary, but starting off with a holistic approach to healthcare and to your healthcare can sometimes be a good approach. As I've always said to you, you don't have to do what I do. This is just a podcast that gets information around, this wonderful journey called life, helping caregivers, but also helping all of us to take better care of ourselves on a day-to-day basis. So our guest this morning is Dr. Tom Ingegno. I'm going to start admitting him so that he can start to come in. Dr. Tom Ingegno has been providing customized whole body acupuncture treatments for a wide range of health conditions since 2001. Dr. Tom is passionate about providing treatment that is aimed not only at alleviating symptoms. You know how I feel about that. Like we take these drugs and that we feel better, but you still have the disease, or your body is still dis-ease, your mind is still at dis-ease. You've done nothing but mask the symptoms. So this is a doctor that understands that. And so he's aimed at alleviating symptoms, but also improving your life. And as you know, he has written a book that I have ordered on Amazon, and I never order it in enough time to get it, so I'll have to bring him back and we'll have to talk about it after I've read it. But he's the author of The Cupping Book, Unlocking the Ancient Secrets of Healing. He is in Baltimore. Yay! I have family there. And he is definitely somebody. I looked at some of the other YouTube interviews that have happened with Dr. Tom, and he definitely gets that, we all want to age with our best selves, mind, body, and spirit. And Dr. Tom, I just want to welcome you to Life is a Sacred Journey because I've been on this quest. I'm going to call it a quest to not, it's not really all about aging, really. It's about living my best life in whatever season I happen to fall into. And so you have that approach in caring for the humanity that walk through your door with acupuncture. And I just learned about cupping. I mean, I've been going for massages for a really long time, but I just learned about cupping. And so I'm excited that your book will arrive at my doorstep tomorrow, and I will sit down and read it. But I want to, first of all, give you an opportunity to speak about what brought you to this work. All of us that serve people, humanity, and the world, because when we serve one another, we're serving the world. We come to it in all different ways. We kind of, some of us fall into it. And so I'm basically asking you, what's your why?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for having me on. I will give a little disclosure. I came home from my office yesterday, felt a little sniffly, took a COVID test, so you're not getting me at my best. I do have COVID.
Oh
I,
no.
I'm definitely okay enough to be here right now. I'm still pretty
Okay.
clear. But if I do
Okay.
cough or stumble or anything, please, it's something rattling around inside me right now.
Oh wow, Dr.
I
Tom. Well, we send you good wishes of healing.
thank
I
you.
just had COVID about 3 weeks ago. It's no fun.
You know, it was my first time. You know, after I made it through all of it, we had so many people coming through the office that would call us the next day and say, "Oh no, I didn't want to expose you." Now it's like I don't even know who had it. I wasn't around anybody. Yeah, you know. Um, but thank you. You said so many amazing things in that introduction.
Oh,
You know, you mentioned this being at the stage you're at, right? And not necessarily fighting aging or anti-aging. And acupuncture has this concept, or should I say East Asian medicine has this concept of yang shen. And
yeah.
right, and that's nourishing life. And that's your whole life, right? We go through these different stages, right? It's sometimes a little bit more clear cut in females where, oh, we have a menopause and then we're in that next stage. Men do go through it too, as much as they might fight against it, kicking and screaming. But all of this is natural,
Yes.
and this does not mean that we're less valuable or we should be weak or falling apart. We can be vibrant at all of those ages.
Yes.
Um, you know, you asked my why in a very I believe that's Sinek's book, right? What's your why? You know, mine was always to help people. It
Oh,
was always to help people. When I was younger, you know, you thought, oh, you got to be a doctor, MD, right? I have to be an MD. And I mean, through what I will call various serendipitous events that occurred throughout my life, that Western medicine path was open for me, but it didn't seem to fit. And there was this slight nudge to the East. You know, simple things like, you know, the more I tell this story, the more details come back to my mind. But I told this the other day. My mom used to do these auctions for the high school, right? Fundraisers for
yeah,
all
yeah,
their
yeah.
programs and everything. And she'd get donations from all these local businesses. And one of them was a bookstore. So there would be, you know, laundry baskets and laundry baskets full of
Yeah, always.
books in our basement, along with like toys and other stuff. But I remember coming back from school my sophomore year and going down into my parents' basement and sitting on top of this stack of books was a book called Opening the Dragon's Gate.
Oh,
And it
wow.
was about this one Taoist sect, right? And I will say some of the claims in the book were unbelievable, right? I don't think some of these things actually happened, but it did introduce acupuncture and these concepts of balance. And while I was reading that book, oddly enough, I was taking like a after school Tai Chi class,
Oh,
and it
wow.
started to warp me into that direction. We had an elective, well, we had a class that was East Asian philosophy. So we started studying Taoism and Buddhism and Confucius. Um, and all of those principles, at the heart of them all were balance. And
Yes.
that made a lot of sense to me, right? So too often I think and look, I'm not anti-Western medicine. Believe me, I took some meds to make sure I was up and running this
Okay.
morning for
Yeah.
you. um, but within that, you know, what can we get our body to do naturally? And that's the core of East Asian medicine as a whole. How can I stimulate our body to do the thing that it needs to do when it needs to do it
Yeah.
in the right amount, right? We're not going to be able to turn a knob past where it's supposed to go, but where is that middle of the road path that keeps us up and functioning? And that evolves and that changes depending on where we are in life.
Yeah.
And that was absolutely fascinating to me. The next major event that kind of set me on this course was that the end of that, oh, the intercession of my junior year, I got a postcard in the mail from an acupuncture college.
Oh, wow.
And I went to the open house over Christmas break, and I was signed up before I started my second semester of my junior year. And I had enough prereqs to get into the program. I got into the program. I did my undergraduate and graduate for one semester, my last year of junior, and I just skipped my whole senior year and never looked back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Good. I love that. I love that because it's sort of like this was it. This was it.
Yeah, well, so much we like, and this still happens in my life. I'll fight something. I think I want something really bad, and no, I'm gonna tooth and nail this until I get that. And then you kind of get closer and closer. You're like, whoa, what am I doing? Hold on, this isn't panning out. You get closer to the thing, and you're like, oh, that's not as shiny as I thought it was. That's not as rewarding as I thought it was.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're like, wow, this just feels right. And you go in that direction. I mean, that's even what led me to Baltimore.
Yeah.
I have to say that, like, I did 2 years of my undergraduate down here, and I always felt like it was the right place, wrong time. I toyed with, when my wife and I got married, I said, how do you feel about leaving Long Island? She goes, that's fine. We did a weekend and I took her to all the touristy spots. She didn't know what she was getting into when we moved down here.
That's a really good thing to do.
We did the aquarium, we did the water taxis, we ate on the water, and she goes, oh my God, I love it here. And I'm like, this is not what people that live here do.
Right.
But
That's great.
when I was looking about at licensure, I was on the state website to fill out my license application. I said, oh, what is this? It was an animal acupuncture certification course. And I hadn't heard of that. That's not a thing in most states.
Wow.
So I said, well, how do I get that? And I called the state board. They said, oh, you got to call this school. I called the school, and I remember it was March 3rd or 4th. And she goes, oh, that class starts on St. Patty's Day, the 17th. And I said, oh, sign me up for that. And at the time, my brother happened to be living down here. So I stayed with him every weekend while I was going to this class, coming back, running my clinic in New York. And then that helped me kind of figure out where I was going to practice, get my feet wet in the city again. And then about 6 months later, we actually moved down here. So, once again, I didn't really have a plan, but there was some guidance along the way.
It's so funny I love when you talk about these places and these, what I call, they're like green light, red light, yellow light stops, where you stop and then you move and you stop again and you move. But it's a trajectory that you could never have imagined at the beginning of the journey. And things start to, as you say, people, things, all the things seem to fall in place. It doesn't mean it's easy, because it's, I don't think anything is easy. Anything. Joy is not easy. You have to look at it, but that working through it, as well as that feeling of this is really what I want to do, makes it better for the people on the other end, because they get you at your best self.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think that's a key discernment there.
Yeah.
I do a podcast with a friend of mine, and we had this her name's Dr. Erin Baker, and she talks about joy specifically. And she says joy is very different than happiness, right? So sometimes joy isn't fun. Sometimes joy is work.
Right.
Sometimes joy is tears.
Right.
But it's that thing that fills you. It's that thing that drives you, right? So yeah, you should have some joy and happiness along that too. But sometimes joy is really grinding, because you want this outcome. You feel it. It feels right. And like the other day, I'm one of these people that there's actually a book called Driven by Dr. Doug Brackman, who claims to get 2 degrees in psychology just to figure out what was wrong with him. He's a great guy. I'm
gonna write that down.
Yeah, and I was through a business group where we actually got to talk to him once a month in kind of a group setting. And I remember saying to him, hey man, I'm just a regular guy. And he looks at me, he goes, no, you're not regular. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, Tom, there's everyone in this business group, they're driven. And that's a thing, right? There isn't, you get to the top of the mountain and then you go, oh, there's a mountain over there that's higher. So there's almost a lack of joy in the accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
And definitely suffer through that.
Yeah.
So the other day, my digital media manager was like, Tom, your resume, your CV is huge. No one has done what you've done. And I go, I don't feel like I've done anything yet, right? And I think it's that mission driven thing, right?
Yes.
I want to help as many people as possible. I'm not doing it yet. I'm hoping that being on shows like this with you uh, gets out and reaches more people. The book
Yep.
was an attempt to get people that I can't physically help in
Right.
my clinic, right?
Yes.
How do I have the biggest impact? And how do I bring something that this is also very passionate for me, where we want people to have some connection to that thing, right?
Yeah.
Cupping spread all over the world.
That's
There
right.
isn't a continent, a country that doesn't have it. And
Mhm.
it's not colonialization, it's not
Thank
appropriation.
you.
It belongs to everybody because we don't
Thank
even know
you.
where it came from. Right?
Thank you.
We have so it's all of ours. It is
Mhm.
a human experience. We have modern clinical studies.
Yeah.
It was called grandma's medicine. It was done in homes around the world.
I
Uh,
I've
yeah,
seen it. Like
yeah,
you'll see it because I'm a Western fan person and
yeah.
historic person, and you'll see people taking and putting on, when the person has fever or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
and they never spoke about it because the theme of the movie was shoot 'em up, bang bang.
Yeah,
But the
yeah.
reality is, it's not something that's foreign to us as a humanity.
It is not. It is
Mhm.
not. And when I was teaching at an acupuncture school in Manhattan that had a really large immigrant student population, and I'm not saying immigrant with any disdain. I'm the product of immigrants as well.
I hear you.
Um, we everybody would say grandma did it, or they would tell me how they did it in their country, and there was always a slight variation.
Hmm.
And it was like, wow, this grew and evolved and had different uh you know different methodology, but still the same outcome. People found clinical value in it. They actually saw it. And now, within the last maybe 5 or 6 years, we have all of this research that's actually saying, no, this does this.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
great for musculoskeletal pain. Hey, it might actually help with your chest congestion.
Hmm.
I don't know if I still have the bruises because I put them on last night. Maybe not in this little camera, but I was trying to break up anything in my chest to be ready
That
for
might be.
today. You know,
Yes.
so
Yes.
yeah, I want to, and this is another important thing that my mentor taught me. Like, you got to walk the walk, right? I can't be out there saying, "Oh, this is great," and then, "Oh, no, no, don't do that to me."
Mhm.
No, I got to live it too. So my kids do it to me. Yeah, my family, we have all my tools. I have a set here. Now, how much I use them really depends on how run down I am when I get out of work.
Gotcha.
But everything we do at the clinic, I do. Everything I talk about, I try and live. I can't tell people to meditate unless I'm meditating. I can't tell people to
Exactly.
exercise unless I'm exercising.
Yep.
So I have to make that part of my lifestyle.
I love that. So I want to give you a moment to teach because I think
Okay.
this is important. When I want to go from acupuncture to the cupping,
Mhm.
because acupuncture to me, and when I say this, that it saved my emotional life, I
Oh, I'm
really
so
mean
glad to
that.
hear that. I'm
Yeah,
so glad to hear
yeah,
that.
it really did. Because after a big uproar in one season of my life, I was introduced or reintroduced to acupuncture. And this is a quick story, friends. I was laying on the table for the first time with a new person that I didn't know, and feeling a little something something because I was
Mhm,
already
mhm.
going through some stuff, and this was a stranger, and la la la. And he asked me all these questions. I filled out a survey, and yeah, and I'm laying there, and he begins to perform the acupuncture, gently explaining things to me
Mhm.
as he went. When he was done with the placement of the wonderful, I love to call them acupuncture rods because I think
Mhm.
people hear the word needle and it freaks them out. Okay, they're rods of hope and joy and release. And when he left the room, because he left the room for a minute,
Mhm.
all of a sudden, this I can't, I will tell you, friends, and I don't lie to you because I have no reason to. This whole flood of emotion started coming out of me, and I'm a control freak. If you look at me on the disc, I'm a DI. You're not gonna break me
Yeah,
down.
breaking you. Yeah.
You don't break me down. And it came up and it flowed out. It was uncontrollable. I was sobbing by the time he came in the room. And then he touched my chest. And the biggest breath that I have ever taken, possibly since the day I took my first breath, which I can't remember, I took it. And I began my new life after this trauma. You see what I'm saying, friends? That's what I'm trying to tell you. It was the bridge for me from this trauma that happened in my life and it's always with another person, right? That's what we do to each other. We crash into each other, and then moved to this new place where I wasn't whole 100%, but I was ready to move into a new place. And that's, for me, why acupuncture, massage, and I'm going to try cupping, is a part of my life, because medicine could not have done that for me. The counselors that I was going to, and I'm not putting them down, they weren't able to do that for me, because I was guarded in those communications. Does that make sense to you, Dr. Tom?
Absolutely. So one of my teachers actually was, she had a PhD in psychology, and she went back and learned acupuncture because of that nonverbal component, right? I don't have to have a wall there, right? We feel these things. One of the most beautiful things about acupuncture, and first of all, thank you for being so tender with my medicine. You described it even before you got into your personal story, you described it with such care, and I really do appreciate that.
Of course,
It's far beyond just a mechanical thing, and I think that's where people have a hard time, right? I can understand you put a needle into a muscle, you get the muscle to release, I have pain relief,
right?
But in Chinese medicine, in East Asian medicine as a whole, our spiritual self, our emotional self, our psychological self, it's not separated, right? It's not a ghost in a machine. It's this density of something we call energy, right? So the physical stuff is this really dense stuff, but all of those other things are intimately connected to those different pathways and organs within the body, and you don't get to separate them. We can't say, here's your brain, here's here's your emotions, here's your spirit, right? Where is it? It's in our body somewhere, floating around. It's connected to it. It's not locked into it. It's more etheric, but it's there.
Yeah.
And we access those through the different channels. So the channels just don't have physiological structure that they run through. They have emotional components. They have psychological elements. They have spiritual elements. They have colors, flavors, sounds, seasons, smells. And it sounds like madness, but this is a system that evolved over thousands and thousands of years of observation. Somebody wrote it down, shared it with other practitioners, and they kept developing it. So it evolved, right? And because of that, somebody may come in and say, "Oh God, they might say something that is so esoteric, so off out in the distance, and you're like, oh, I know what's going on." Yeah. Right. And this emotional release. My mentor had a teacher in Japan who would say that your patients lie to you. And it's not that, I ask you a question and you're not going to answer it,
right?
But maybe you don't have the words for it. Maybe it is so guarded and hidden deep inside somewhere in your consciousness that you can't pull it out even if you want to.
Exactly.
And when we open up those pathways, when we make space for that, God, I think I probably had 4 people cry this week. And it's a beautiful thing, right? We want our space to be inviting. We want our space to be safe when we treat. We want our space to feel like the person belongs there on our table.
Yep.
And that's when those things can happen, right? I'm a
Yep.
pretty big guy. I don't give the creepy vibe. I make sure I don't, because I want to make sure that people feel comfortable.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the more comfortable they feel, regardless of whether or not they're coming in for some horrible trauma or they pulled their back, the more comfortable, the more relaxed, the more safe they can feel in that space, the better results I'll get.
Yep.
And you know what'll happen? Sometimes that pulled back is the thing that leads them to say, "Oh my God, I forgot that when I went through this divorce, or when I had this happen to me, this will all flood up." And now they're there for a very different reason.
That's right.
One of our classic textbooks, and you mentioned humanity before, and I've really been hammering on this one phrase so much lately because I think it's the core of East Asian medicine as a whole. Acupuncture is the expression of humanity.
Yeah.
It's a dance that the patient and the practitioner do together.
Yep.
But the idea is, me as a practitioner has to exist in humanity. So maybe I'm road raging and screaming at you in the car. That's not so good. But if I keep developing my humanity, maybe I'll understand, oh, that person just wasn't paying attention. Maybe they have something going on in their life. How do I know that they didn't cut around me because they got to get to the hospital? It's very hard. I'm failing at that miserably, but I'm trying.
Yeah.
But also, when I treat you, I'm going to cue in on different things than another practitioner. And that's not going to be wrong.
Right.
It's going to be because I see your humanity differently than somebody else.
That's
We
right.
come to this difference. So that's not a weakness. That's a big strength, right?
Mhm.
Maybe I'm not your acupuncturist. That'll still hurt my ego a little. But as long as I can get you in front of the right person where you have that,
Yes.
and I still played a role in your healing.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And then the other piece that people I think this really helps with, and I've been on this journey now for almost 2 decades. So
Mhm.
all of you that are out there know that there's always a beginning to everything. And I always look at, we may not remember the day we were born, but it was just as hard on us as it was on our mommies that gave birth to us. And so the reality is, that's life. Every time you become a new iteration of who you are and yourself, it comes through a portal. I mean, you can hear things like, even biblical things, you can't get through unless you can get through the eye of a needle. Now think about that. It's like the eye of a needle. Nobody can fit through that. But we're talking about that emotional stuff. Like when you let it go, then you're lighter, you're heavier, and you can move more freely. And as Dr. Tom has said, which I love, is that all these things come together to help create that equilibrium where you can balance. So it doesn't matter if you're a Buddhist or a Christian or what faith practice you have. You're trying to get yourself in balance for whatever it is, life's journey, parenting, being a parent, being a grandparent, being a mate, being a lover to somebody. There's got to be balance. If there's no balance, what happens? I mean, you've been on a seesaw, all of you, all of us, and the person jumps off right away. There's no balance. And what happens to you? Boom, you crash. So I just love that Dr. Tom is here, because he is really, for some of you, you think of acupuncture is this woo-woo, oh my goodness gracious, ooh, I could never do that, because it scares you, because we've been lied to, and we've been raised on fear, right? We've been raised on fear, and it's okay.
Yeah.
But now, when we're teaching you something else, it's like, take a chance. And I'm going to say this again, take a chance and do something that you thought you might not have wanted to do, or that somebody told you was bad, or that you think is bad because of something else you heard. Take a chance and do something for you, because when you're feeling healthy inside and out, I'm gonna tell you, the shine that you bring into the shine on that you bring into the world is amazing. And then you don't have to be all upset with everybody about everything, and you can just go through life going, I wonder. and you can ponder things and not let it destroy you, because that's what's happening to us. Slowly but surely, we're being destroyed. So cupping, I found,
Yeah. Yeah.
is about, because I'm this person that had high blood pressure at one
Mhm.
point. I had inflammation at one point, all gone, all gone. And I learned that cupping would have been really good for me at that time because of the fact that it breaks up the toxins that live inside of us that create that inflammation, and helps us to release them in a way that is natural to the body's sort of eco build makeup. And so I'm going to ask Dr. Tom to explain it to you in a better
Sure, sure.
way.
I will say, I always get a little leery using the word toxin, and there's nothing wrong. You're not saying
Okay.
anything wrong,
Okay.
but the idea is I want to be able to quantify that. I
Good.
feel like a lot of people will say something like, "Oh, I had this green smoothie and it's going to detoxify me," or something, right? And yes, there is some truth to that, but it's not. It's not that straightforward. It's not like I did
Okay.
this thing and this is what happened, right? Okay, there has to be these processes in your liver and your kidneys that are going to, change the structure of certain compounds and get them out of your body.
Right.
With acupuncture, with cupping specifically, right? The toxins. I would say this is more because blood has quote unquote stagnated in an area, right? We have metabolic waste in that's not getting good circulation, right? That may be some lactic acid, that may be cytokines, which is, with a big inflammation. We heard a lot
Mhm.
about that during COVID with a cytokine storm, where
Mhm.
all this inflammation in the body just overwhelms it and it shuts down. Now, yes, inflammation is part of a healing process. We want inflammation when we work out. We want inflammation after an initial injury. But when that tissue is not getting proper circulation, that
Oh,
inflammatory process just keeps running on and on. Now, part of that may be diet, part of that may be, being sedentary and not moving around enough, and part of it could be environmental toxins. All these things that we in these holistic health communities are so concerned with, right?
yes.
Uh, what cupping does above all else is locally, and when I say locally, directly under the cup, 6 inches into the body and a little bit wider, increases circulation at a massive level. Now, oddly enough, it causes a little bit of local inflammation. Why? I just broke a bunch of capillaries at the surface, right? There's a vacuum that we're creating, right?
Okay.
So in my book, I talk about how to do that with modern day cups, with silicone plastic cups that don't require fire. Traditionally, we put fire in the cup super quick, not to heat the cup up, to burn the oxygen, create the vacuum. When that goes on the
Okay.
surface of the skin, it pulls the skin up into that cup, right? You'll see it pucker up into it. What'll happen is those small capillaries at the surface will break. Same way, this is a little less medical sounding, but it's the same as giving somebody a hickey.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I've broken those little blood vessels at the surface of the skin.
Yeah.
What happens internally under that skin layer is now the fascia, that like meshy kind of thing that sits in between the skin and the muscles, starts to pull away from the muscles,
Okay.
create some space, right? We can have little adhesions in that tissue that trap inflammation as well and cause some pain or some rigidity. And then the muscle itself gets blood pulled straight through it, right? Up to 6 inches deep, like I said. So if we're doing it on the chest or in the abdomen, you'll have some internal organ effect too. Um, and that increased circulation is really what's bringing the healing potential there, right? I've increased circulation to that area. I've now pulled the older blood that's been less mobile, right? It's still moving, but we would say stagnant from an East Asian medicine
Mhm.
standpoint.
Mhm.
Um, so while that's pulled out, we now have fresh blood coming in behind it, right? Fresh blood should have oxygen, nutrients, antibodies. It'll have Western medicinals in it if you have them in your system. So we can kind of help it target, like if you're on meds, like you don't necessarily have to stop them.
Right.
But we'll target that area that might be in pain or might need some healing with those cups.
Wow. And how many? I mean, so you target, yeah, I'm like, how many cups do you use?
It's very funny because one of our massage therapists at the office yesterday was doing a massage on a guy that used to come in all the time. He got cupping from me, and he said, "Hey, if I get a cupping set, can I do it at home?" And I said, "Yeah," and he showed me a cupping set. I said, "Yeah, that's a good one." And he came in and there was cupping marks on top of a cupping mark, on top of a cupping mark. And yeah, I mean, she described it as looking like an extra pepperoni pizza, right? There was just marks all up and down his back. Now, it might have been a little excessive, but I don't think he hurt himself.
Okay.
I like to be a little strategic. So if somebody has a certain issue, I want to target that tissue and muscle groups around it, right? So it may be a shoulder thing. Maybe I'll do some in the front of the shoulder, on the delt, right on top of the shoulder, and then around the back, around the trap. So I'll use the expression horseshoes and hand grenades with this, right? So, make sure we cover a broad area without completely having to coat people. Now, I believe there might be a photo of me floating around on the internet with like 50 cups up and down my back, but it was really just because I saw a photo of a man in Thailand and he had like 20 cups on his back. And I went, I'm bigger than he is. We have more cups.
Yeah.
Let's give it a go. So it wasn't for therapeutic value. It was for a photo op. And then there's a brilliant acupuncturist slash photographer. I haven't seen his stuff in Instagram in a while, but he would do something. His handle was Art of Acupuncture, and he would take these beautiful, like with black backdrops and perfectly lit models, and he would do moxa, which is an herb that we burn on the surface of the skin, and you have these little smoke coils coming up off the patient, and the needles would be placed just so. But occasionally he would do a cupping one, and he'd do crazy stuff like champagne flutes on people's back and stuff, and really just for the photo.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but any vessel that you can create a suction with, you could technically use. Now, certain things make better cups than others, and like I said, for the people at home, maybe leave the glass ones to the professionals.
Yeah.
There's so many safer ones, especially the silicone ones. You're not going to drop them, crack them, break them, or anything.
Yeah.
But within that, this method itself, I remember seeing, I believe it was it Sudan or Somalia, a photo of two goat herders doing cupping, and they had a way of taking water buffalo horns, cutting the top off, and putting something that smolders at the top to eat the oxygen out, and then covering that to keep the suction in.
Wow.
And it was such, it was this old black and white photo, probably from the the teens or the 20s of the early 1900s. It's so weird saying that now, but a beautiful photo, and once again alluding to this rich history of cupping. So there's thousands of ways of doing it, and sometimes the theory was a little bit different, but the mechanical function was the same.
Yeah. So your book is out.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Yeah.
Tell us about
So I wanted this to be my mentor was very funny. He used to say things like, look, best theory is great as long as it's practical, as long as you can apply it, right? Now I like scholarly writing. I've been published in some peer-reviewed journals, but it's not useful for somebody that doesn't have the same letters after my name. So how to be the biggest impact on people is to write something that everyone can understand.
Yeah.
So my book was meant to be, I don't want to say brass tacks, but very straightforward, very readable, very understandable. I didn't want to write, War and Peace, 500 pages. It's 131 pages cover to cover.
131 pages. Yes.
And it's not word heavy. There's some photos in there that are, they're not gigantic, but it's enough to give you the ideas. I want to take people through the history of it, which is just a few pages long. I know history is boring for some people, but even bringing it here stateside, we talk about, the Godfather movie, Zorba the Greek. So these movies in the 60s and 70s that actually still referenced it, and oddly enough, it was about Greeks and Italians, Mediterranean people, but it still had this old world kind of feel in that movie. Um, but how even Michael Phelps kind of made it a mainstay here, and Gwyneth Paltrow, who I make fun of a little bit too much, maybe, but within that, I how it kind of got into the America's eyesight is really what I try and cover in that. Then we go through the different types of cups, because back in the day, it's like literally grandmas would use drinking glasses on your kitchen table.
Yep.
Well, you hop on your preferred online retailer, you type cupping sets, you will get thousands of hits, different shapes, colors, sizes. This one has a pump. This one you just literally press against the skin and it creates the suction. This one has a twist. This one has a mechanical. You just press a button and pumps it out. So we talk about all of those, and even some more novelty ones, like ones that are supposed to have red light and heat and vibration. And then we talk about how to use them, where to put them on, and the safety precautions. There aren't too many, but there are some rules. The biggest one that I can say is, we don't want to do it on open wounds. We don't want to do it on pregnant people.
Yeah.
Blood thinners, we should use a lot of caution and maybe leave that to a professional. But in most cases, most people, doesn't matter what age you are, what else is going on, you should be able to do some cupping, when you need it.
Wow. I pulled it up, my friends, because I wanted you to see. Hope you can see. Hold on. There
Oh,
you go. The cupping book. And
yeah. And I believe I have it right there too.
oh, there it is. Yeah. So we both were thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
But
That's my extent of mass marketing.
I
It's
hear
just
you.
to do a podcast and hang a picture of it.
But I want you to, again, my gift to you by doing this podcast is not to be the one that has the most subscribers and all of that, algorithm stuff that is important to a lot of people. Like, I live in a non-judgment world, so how you navigate your space is how you navigate your space. But for me, it is about sharing information and things that I'm learning along what I think is a sacred journey. I think my life is sacred. A journey where I'm learning new things. I'm learning what makes me feel good about myself as a person, and what is physically keeping me healthy, and pretty much prescription free. And I think that's a healthier space. So again, not judging anybody that has any medications that you have to take because you have to take them for whatever reason. We're not judging. What we're saying is this is a possibility. This is a new adventure space that you might want to walk into as you navigate just this wonderful sacred journey, and then realizing what your body can do if you do certain things. If you manipulate and do certain things, your body is an incredible machine. It is it's probably more miraculous than any other machine that you could possibly think of, because it can heal itself. Maybe not 100% in some diseases, but pretty darn close if you find the right modality, the right thing that can help. So just open your minds, friends, open your minds, because I know some of you out there are looking at this and going, what are they talking about, right? So get the book, take a look at it. And, I always say get 2 books, because the way that I do books is that I read one, keep one, and always give one away to somebody who as a gift, to say, I just read this. Tell me what you think. It's a way to also build bridges of communication between your loved ones and the people you choose to have around you. So, Dr. Tom, I know you have COVID, and we want to be mindful of your time. And so what, from your space and place in this vast universe, what is some of the last kind of words you want to share with us about your gift to the planet?
Oh, wow. That sounds so heavy when you word it like that.
No,
You know,
from your
you
heart.
I really want to, and I think as you know, I'm few years away from 50 just yet, but I really want to have the most human experience I can, and that's the interaction with other people.
Mhm.
And at a level, right? So I love doing these because I get to meet people like you. I get to have conversations like this. We get to exchange information, and hopefully we keep growing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean that's hopefully this is a natural evolution because like I said, if I grind 24/7 in my clinic, I'm not even going to make a scratch on the world population. But if I start doing things like this and writing and sharing these things, and not because I found them or I created them or they're great because I say so, but because they've been around and they're part of that human experience, I think we all get a little further. Maybe we evolve a little bit together.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I want to thank Dr. Tom for coming to Life is a Sacred Journey. Anyone who takes time out of their busy schedule in life to come to this platform, we are always so grateful. I want to lift up his book again, The Cupping, and there's more to it. So let me make sure I say it right because I want you to get it right. The Cupping Book, Unlocking the Secrets of Ancient Healing, and it's a beautiful book. I love the cover very, very much.
Thank you.
I love it. Okay, so order it, get two, give it a one away for Christmas, keep one for yourself, and then once you read it, if you think you got the knowledge, you made some notes, give that one away too. Pass it on, pass it on. And if you're out there right now and you're feeling grief, anxiety, or any place where you think that the world would be better off without you, it won't be. And so we want you to know that the suicide hotline is out there. I have spoken to them, and they are backed up. They are truly backed up, and there's been some longer wait times. So I'm reaching out to you to say, don't get afraid of the silence. Stay on the line. Don't hang up. Somebody will come and talk to you, guide you to resources, get you through this moment. It No, no, please don't take your life. Please, please don't take your life. And I've been there. I know how it feels to be in despair. I don't know exactly what you're feeling, but I'm telling you, I've been in despair where I thought I didn't matter and I was unseen and this was not a good place and the world would be better off and everybody around me would be better off if I wasn't here. And I'm still here because somebody reached out to me. So now you're going to have to make the first step because they don't know where you are, but you find a phone, find somebody that will walk with you and push those numbers, dial those numbers, reach out 988. You can even text them and get the support and help that you need. We love you here at Life is a Sacred Journey, and we wish nothing but the best for you. And if somebody didn't tell you today, it matters. You matter. All right, friends, go out, hug a dog, hug a tree, hug a cat, pet a dog, hug yourself, and be the joy that you want to be in the world. Don't depend on anybody else to bring it into your life because it really is all about you manifesting that and sending it out to someone else. Send Dr. Tom well wishes in the chat and for his COVID recovery, and we'll have him come back after we read the book so we can have a deeper conversation and some questions that might come up. And so I'm counting on you to read the book and send me the questions that you have. And we wish you a wonderful day here at Life is a Sacred Journey. Have a good weekend. It's Labor Day. Think about those that labor that never get any day off, because there are people out there. All right. Be well to yourself. Love yourself. Dr. Tom, thank you so much for being
Oh,
here.
thank you.
Life
Thank
is a
you. It was an
Sacred
honor. It
Journey.
really
You are
was.
amazing. I want you to hold on for a moment, but while I say goodbye to my friends.